I'm 29. I've never had a drink, never smoked, never touched drugs, ever. It's funny because people always ask me, wow, never? Like ever? And I'm like, yep, that's what never means. People assume it's because I'm religious or had strict parents growing up, but that's not it. The reality is, I've seen what alcohol and drugs did to people who were close to me growing up, and I never wanted to go down that path. I'd been around it plenty, growing up in high school, in college, but I was never interested in it at all. And to give you a backstory, my father never drank, never smoked, lifelong, but my mother did. She did smoke and drink, but not too much. For me, it's not even a religious thing. It became one, but it was never religious to start with. I was a dedicated athlete. I played soccer nearly every day of my life for 12 years, from the age of 9 until 21. And I grew up in a family of 5 boys. The 2 oldest brothers, they're the ones who drank and smoked when they got older. And they showed me a lifestyle that I didn't like, and I saw the problems that came from it. One of my earliest memories is seeing a 6-pack of beer bottles, and I think the caps were open. It just smelled horrible. I don't know if someone had just drank them or whatnot, but it just smelled horrible, and that turned me off from a very young age. Around the time that I was like 15, 16, getting into high school, going to parties, hanging out with my older brothers, seeing what the cool kids were doing, etc., etc., there was a couple of parties that my older brothers took me to with their high school friends, and I saw people getting wasted, just slumped on the couches and chairs. I mean, people that were just introducing themselves to each other were like dry humping each other in the hallway and filling sinks up with puke. And I was just sitting there thinking to myself, is this fun? Do people really enjoy this? And I was only 15, 16 years old. And, all of these people were high school age, but older. Some of them maybe a little older than that, like anywhere from like 17 to like 20. They were in that age range. And that whole experience just deterred me from alcohol and smoking. I never felt tempted to do it throughout high school or college. Once I stopped playing college soccer, I became a regular student. I had a lot more time in my hands. I had a lot more opportunities to hang out with people, and I had a lot more chances and reasons to smoke and drink, but I still never did. I knew that I didn't want to go down that path and end up making, a potentially life-altering, horrible decision. I always visualize myself achieving great things in life, and I'm not saying that alcohol and drugs would prevent that. I mean, hey, let's face it, it's helped people do crazy, amazing things, but it wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't what I wanted to do for myself. I actually recall, this reminds me of when I had a conversation at my cousin's apartment on campus. We were just chopping it up with a couple of his friends. We would play Smash Bros, just eat food, hang out, and chill. And one of his friends, who I didn't know very well, actually, out of nowhere, he was just like, bro, do you just feel like you weren't meant to live a normal life? Like you were meant to achieve something great? And that, when he said that, it resonated with me so much. Because I did feel that way, and I still feel that way to this day. And the sad thing is, the friend who said that, he ended up passing away not long after that. A drunk driver who was driving on the wrong side of the road crashed into him, and he was only 22 years old, which that brings home my point even more. Alcohol and drugs, whether you're doing it or not, just people who are doing it, it just brings, it's such dark energy when people do it, and it results in dumb things like that, like someone losing their life because of someone else's bad decisions. I just knew I didn't want to be on the receiving end of it, and I didn't want to give that to anyone else. I just knew that I'd be sinking plenty of time and money into it, and I wouldn't get much out of it if I did actually partake in it. The way I look at it is this: like, imagine that you're stacking years of clear-minded, dedicated weekends throughout your 20s. That would definitely put you ahead of your peers, and that's what I feel like I was doing. I didn't realize it at the time, but that's what I was doing. In fact, I've probably saved so much money by not doing it, and that helped me put myself in my current position in life. I became a homeowner at 26, I have no consumer debt at age 29, and I have a great credit score. But that's for another video. I can go more in depth on how I achieved that and what circumstances led to that and whatnot. But back to college. So my junior year of college rolls by, and one of my older brothers, who I'd mentioned before, he moved out of state with his girlfriend years back, and I hadn't heard from him in a while. But my parents arranged a picnic for his birthday, like a picnic gathering at the park. And he shows up to it like an hour late, which that's not weird. Like he's notorious for that. Like, we always kind of clown him for it. But when he showed up to it, he was super skinny and he was slurring when he talked, and I was so confused. I didn't know what happened to him. In hindsight, I was a little bit, I don't want to use the word innocent, but like that is kind of a way to describe it. Like, I just didn't realize what someone could do that would make them look like that or act like that. But yeah, I was like too innocent, so to speak, to realize what he'd been doing. And it turns out that he actually became addicted to heroin and had been using it for a while. He actually was even cooking it at his apartment when he moved back to our home state. And my parents were so upset when they found out about it. That's why they kind of like did an intervention kind of thing with him. And that around that time period, that was just a super low point for me in life. Around that same time, I got rear-ended on my way to class when I was driving to campus, which totally messed up my fancy 1997 Honda CR-V. And actually, right around that same time, my then girlfriend's dad had nearly died due to heart issues he had. He ended up in the hospital. I think he actually might have died when he was getting operated on, but he made it through. But that was just a really, really bad time for me. That semester was just a mess. I had to use my one-time only late withdrawal from my Japanese class, which I had been skipping that semester. And I kind of felt like I was at a crossroads in life. It wasn't the lowest point in my life, but it was definitely a low point. At that point, I was realizing that my dream of being a pro soccer player probably wasn't going to happen, and I had definitely fallen out of love with soccer at that point. And I also think that my own social life was somewhat hindered by not drinking and smoking. I mean, I was an absolute loner in college. My mindset was, get my degree, get out. I only cared about grades. I didn't really care about making friends. Like, I'm here to that's how I felt when I was playing soccer too. I was like, I'm not trying to be buddy with my teammates. Like, I'm here my goal is to be a pro soccer player. I don't really care about college ball like that. Like, I'm using this to get to the next stage, which is just such a dumb approach in my opinion. My thought process in life in general at that point was just so skewed because I 100% bought into the whole idea of meritocracy. Like in college, it makes sense. You do the homework, you study, you answer correctly on the tests, and you'll get good grades. So naturally in soccer, I thought if you're the best player, you'll play, which I learned is just 100% not the truth. Everyone has their favorites. There's a little bit of politics everywhere you go. And I'm not making excuses. That's just the reality of life. There's always politics involved. And at that point in my life, that was my junior year of college, I was considering dropping out and focusing entirely on my business that I had started, which was sports videography, because that was making me some money, and I knew it had so much room to grow, and I was getting better at editing and shooting and whatnot, and my network was growing. I was doing a good job. But when I told my father that I was considering dropping out, he told me, like, you're already almost done. You might as well finish it. And he said something like, even McDonald's is requiring college degrees, blah, 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 which I don't even know if that's true. He always does that. He always he'll embellish things to like push me to do the quote unquote right thing. And I agreed. I agreed. I was like, I'm already almost done. I've already spent money and time in college. Like, I might as well just finish it. It's one more year left. So heading into my senior year of college, I totally changed my outlook on so many things. I cared a lot less about grades and I cared way more about networking. And it served me pretty well. I didn't have any more FOMO, which is, fear of missing out. I actually went to the social events. I went to the student union. I went to the student clubs. I met new people. I made new friends, etc., etc. And I realized by doing it, I wasn't missing out on the fun. I was skipping out on the regret. Because so many of these situations that people put themselves in where it's normal to drink, it's normal to smoke, it's normal to whatever. I'm not saying hard drugs. I'm just saying where you're indulging in that kind of stuff. People end up making really stupid decisions that changes their life forever, and then they won't be able to achieve something that they're originally supposed to achieve. And you've probably heard the saying that discipline is freedom, which is something I've always kind of known because I've seen how much alcohol and drugs can control someone. It's like they become an entirely different person, and they'll literally do anything. Like, you would be surprised the lengths that people would be willing to go to get their hands on their next fix. It's pretty sad. And honestly, in the first place, most people don't even want to drink or smoke. They just don't want to be the odd one out in a social setting like that. Everyone else is doing it, so I might as well do it. And that's how a lot of people are. I've never been that way. I've always been really self-convinced and dedicated to what I want to do. And I've seen, obviously, like I mentioned before, I saw the example of my older brothers and how their lives started to go, and it really deterred me from doing that. But by never drinking and smoking, I've maintained complete control of myself for all of my conscious life, and I think that is a massive advantage to have nowadays. Think about people who don't even count drugs or alcohol. Think about social media. Think about technology. Think about all these other distractions we have in life that people let consume all of their time. The fact that I was able to dedicate that time to my interests and growing my skills and building my network, I think that put me ahead a lot in my 20s. The point of this video isn't to judge people, it's just to inspire others to live more healthy and share my experience as a lifelong, quote-unquote, sober man. It's definitely not the only way to live, but it's a powerful way to live. We're allowed to live differently, and sometimes being different becomes your edge in life. What do you guys think? Have any of my viewers gone their whole life without drinking or smoking? Or even if you have drank or smoked, has it led to a negative situation that you could have avoided? Or maybe you had a friend that made a really poor decision, it totally changed their life, and you feel a sense of relief because you didn't do that or you didn't go down that path? I know it's kind of hard for some people to talk about it, but for me, it's just the reality of life, and I just felt like sharing what was on my mind. But yeah, leave a comment, like, subscribe, whatever. I plan on uploading at least twice a week from now on. I've got a lot of topics I like to cover, and this is just one of them. But yeah, with that being said, have a good rest of your day or night. Try to make small steps towards big goals because the small steps add up, and those are the things that make the big difference. I'll see you next time.